Today we're looking at Webern's 6 pieces for orchestra. I mean, I'm horrified seeing myself.
It sounds... Could you make it...
This is one of the Webern problems.
Would you trust me to just play where the beat comes down? Just trust me once.
This is still absolutely one of the most important pieces of the 20th century, and really one of the greatest pieces ever written, full stop. The start of a rehearsal, I can recognize the excitement of the sound of the orchestra tuning up and being ready. And particularly if you're playing a piece like this, which is so delicate, you are thinking, okay, now how do I put this across to everybody? This is not a piece you can just play through once or twice, like a little jigsaw, something you have to put together to make sense of.
Okay, we're lost already. It's in 2.
This is also what happens. As you can hear, there is a melody, but the flute has 4 notes. Ba-da-da-da. The trumpet has 1 note. Bom. The celesta has another 2 notes. Bom, bom. And then it's followed by a sigh on the strings. Da-da. And this is like one sentence. Just to put this together is already hard. Yeah, this is the first rehearsal, so unsurprisingly people are a bit lost.
Beautiful. A bit more harp. Okay, that's cooking nicely.
Yeah, I say it's cooking nicely, but it's still not quite there. And you realize that these pieces have to first get themselves into shape before you can express the emotion that they need. We're in the year 1909 in Vienna. Mahler was writing his 9th symphony. Webern was writing these 6 tiny, intensely compressed pieces, so opposite in dimension that these 6 pieces manage to conjure up the same types of depth, the same degree of emotional intensity in just a very few notes. They're like 6 little nightmares. And they are intimately tied up with the death of his mother. He wrote little titles. The first piece is a presentiment of disaster. This moment before you realize something terrible has happened, but yet it's somewhere in the ether. The second he called fulfillment of disaster, of the knowledge of her death, the shock of the news, and at the end of the piece, what is the first and maybe only musical representation of a panic attack.
It's 2 tempos. It's rasch und mäßiger. So it goes pippe, pippe, woppo, 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 pippe, pippe, rappo, poppo, pippe, pippe, dom, dom, pippo. Wasn't that beautiful? Okay, so ja, Streicher und Schlagzeug. Yeah. Ba 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 ba. Okay, good. Once more.
Well, it's characteristic of the orchestra how everybody is concentrating. I have the whole score in front of me. They have just single lines. And until the piece is in their system, it's really hard for them to know how to build it.
Just play me the trumpets at 11, so you have an idea what not to listen to. And 1. Oh, we're in the second movement. Well, that was also gorgeous. I mean, what can I say? So, takt 11. Yeah, so just don't get too fast, otherwise we won't catch you. Just let's do everyone. Yeah. Tutti takt 11.
I mean, I'm horrified seeing myself, but part of the thing in this music, with these pizzicatos going ba, 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 is you want everybody to make the sound as beautiful as possible.
Oh, it sounds... Could you make it... Good. Let's just add the harp to that, just so you know not to listen. So, takt 11.
There is a feeling sometimes when you come to a piece which looks fragmentary, that all you have to do is put everything in the right place. But in fact, it has to sound as expressive as Mahler or Schumann or Brahms. Even a pizzicato passage like that, you need to find the sound, which is the basis of the whole piece.
Let's do the whole. Good luck. Tenor clef. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, good. Nummer 3.
The third movement, it was not titled, but what he wrote about it described a feeling of numbness. For me, it's like a Japanese painting. It's just a few very, very eloquent brush strokes, a lot of stillness and a lot of thought.
I have to start. Okay. My old piano teacher in Liverpool, in the early 1930s, Webern came to Liverpool and played the piano variations, and he was called to turn pages. And he said, what he will never forget, it's so many single notes, and Webern played every note on the piano. He would vibrate, and he said it looked as though Webern was quivering on even before he started. And I think everything is supposed to sound like that. Super.
This, I think, up to now was, at 37 seconds, the shortest piece of music ever written. But like a haiku, it says exactly what it needs within this structure. I was a very fortunate teenager. I was a member of the National Youth Orchestra in early 70s in Britain. This was one of the years where Pierre Boulez came to work with us for a number of weeks. The Six Pieces was one of the works he did with us, and I think anybody who was in the orchestra could write out whole passages of it, just simply because at this age you are given the emotion of it somehow direct. In the fifth and sixth bars, this was the point where Pierre Boulez gave us the picture of the last drops of water coming out of a bottle. Sometimes I wonder whether it's kind of drops of blood on glass. The music is so intense in its very quiet way that you can make whatever picture you need. It's never neutral. It always means something with enormous purpose. I was a percussionist, so a piece like this is a gift because it's one of the earliest pieces where people are using also percussion as melody, almost as part of the structure of the piece rather than an add-on.
So, Funeral March. Tiny bit more bass drum, yeah? Whoa.
The fact that you have three tiny pieces, very laconic and short, and the Funeral March seems almost endless, as though it's only 4 minutes long. Do you feel that actually you're deep into the psychology of Webern himself? He uses percussion as the very basis of this, as though you're on some kind of long, slow march towards hell. A piccolo sings a really sad, strange little lament that you can't quite get your hands on. But again, there's another heartbeat with the trombones and the percussion going, Rapa, Rapa.
Total full length. Yeah, super.
We have, with the orchestra, some gigantic bells that give this idea that a cathedral is on the march with you. And the orchestra has, again, little jagged attacks, as though something has flown into your face or the ice has cracked. At the very end, it suddenly becomes loud. And the last 2 bars of percussion is actually one of the loudest sounds in all classical music.
So, yeah, you have to come really with me and play loud. You probably think you're playing loud. What? Yeah, no, you can't hear anything, I know. But, yeah, much more. Okay, good. Nochmal, 37. Okay, we have to find a way. Someone will have to help to damp. Maybe a bass player. You have to use your whole beautiful body to damp the bells at the end. Bring a friend. Okay, just the silence should be as loud as the crescendo.
This sets you up for the movement of remembrance of this winter journey, where everything seems dark and grey after the funeral march. It's a staggering piece of psychological theatre.
Good. So, number 5.
The 5th movement is looking back. It's called Remembrance.
Yeah, sorry. Just play me the Amsteg. Can we do the whole Hitchcock film and be right next to the bridge? Just play me the, yeah, so it's really more sound, noise than note. Just the strings at the beginning. And yeah, great. Okay, good. So, tutti, number 5.
Goodness, an 8-bar melody for the first trombone. I mean, it's almost like a whole aria by Verdi in comparison to the rest of the piece.
1, 2. Good. Okay, well, I'm hearing that. Yeah, they have to play the note before you, though. One, 2, 3, tutti, solo. Okay. Sorry, welcome to the world of rehearsing Webern.
Because orchestras always want to play together, if possible, you have to remind them what is not together with them, so they don't try to go with it. And this is something I have to say, I learnt also from Pierre Boulez, was this intense patience of just waiting for it to happen, giving you the pieces in a way saying, giving you the frame and then letting you fill it out.
And yeah, da, da. Great.
I try not to place this piece at the start of a concert before everybody has settled down, because you need everybody's concentration and complicity in the silence of the piece.
When I was conducting in Boston, the Vienna Philharmonic came and they played this, and it was cold like it is in Boston. So people were wearing their coats, and a woman in front of me was wearing this big coat with Velcro. And she decided in the third movement, I'm a bit too hot. So what she did was, every time there was a note, she went, and every time it stopped, she stopped. But literally, I mean, every note, she went, by the end, she'd taken the coat off. But I think nobody has heard any of this movement at all. I mean, it was really extraordinary. So anyway, there we go. Number 6. 9, 3. Yeah. Sure, only if you play on the beat. Would you trust me to just play where the beat comes down rather than going, oh, should we just play now? Just trust me once. Yeah, great, almost. Just the strings, nearly. Yeah, good, yeah. Don't wait, please, back there. I see you doing it later as well as here. Yeah, now you're talking. Thank you. Great.
The oboe is playing, da, 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 and it's as though the strings slash its face with a sharp knife. These are two opposite things, and unless you have that, you don't have the gesture of the music.
Ja, so. Takt 10, 2 Achtel, 1 Viertel, and then, bom, bom, then we're together.
Oh, this is one of the Webern problems. A lot of the music you have to play as well together as if you're a string quartet, but of course a string quartet sits together. What you're hearing there is clarinets and horns who are quite far apart from each other and are having to find a way to do things as accurately as if they were together. In a way, you have one chord here for the strings. That's all they play in this movement, basically, is this slash. And then there is one pizzicato chord they all play as though you dropped a pebble into a lake. Pop. These things are rather hard to achieve because they come out of nothing. What was very interesting is in this particular performance, this was one of a pair, in that at the end of this piece, we went straight on to the beginning of Wagner's Tristan and Isolde. After this, having played a piece which had so much silence and so many single gestures, that when it just moved back from the end of this piece into the Wagner, that suddenly Tristan, these silences didn't seem so extreme. They seemed like part of this same world. What I find wonderful is the way that the pieces talk to each other. It's almost the culmination of what you can do with refining down to this point, but still retaining intensity. And this is what gives it its endless importance. And it's a piece that you can listen to so many times, and each time it will divulge more and more of its secrets. Now, I hope after this that you might want to explore the entire piece. It's 9 of the most extraordinary minutes of music that exist. There it is up there, a link to the whole piece. If you want to know more about what the BRSO does, the subscription for this is down there. Explore and find all the treasures which are there.